right. Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me for this course. Today, we're going to be talking about what to do after registering your LLC. So this means that at this point, you have already registered your LLC with your state, and now you're looking for what steps you need to take afterwards, right? What things should you be looking out for? I know there's so much information out there right now about steps to take for entrepreneurship, and it's really confusing about what is the right information. And so the goal for today's course is really to make sure that you have a thorough understanding of what steps you need to take after you register your LLC, because the work does not stop there, right? Simply because you have filed an LLC does not mean that you have guaranteed liability protection as it applies to your business. There are certain steps that you need to take in order to uphold this protection. So today we're going to be going over those items so that you have a better understanding. And so right now we'll start with some takeaways for today's class. All right. So the main takeaways are, what documents do I need to save? You have so many documents. What do you need to save? Your EIN number. You need to make sure you get your EIN. What is SCorp Tax Status and how does it apply to your business? Business bank account information, state tax permit / license, when to file your taxes, and what contract should I consider? All right, what documents do you need to keep? So one, you need to keep your certificate of formation and or your certificate of filing. Depending on your state, you may get both or you may only get one. So beware of the documents that you get, right? As soon as it's approved, you'll have these documents that have your state seal or state stamp on them, and that's what you need to keep. In the state of Texas, we get a certificate of formation and a certificate of filing. In other states like California, for example, you just get a certificate of filing. You don't get a certificate of formation. So some states you'll get both, some states you only get one, but these are documents that are going to have the state seal or the state stamp on them and your business name. You want to keep those documents. Your tax ID number that your state may send you. So in the state of Texas, after you file for an LLC or for a corporation, you'll get a letter in the mail from the Texas Comptroller's Office that tells you what your Texas tax ID number is. And for other states, it should be very similar. And so you're going to want to make sure that you save this document. I know for Louisiana, they'll mail you a letter, state what your tax ID number is, and that way you can make an online account and keep up with all your documents there. Same with Texas. And most states now have some sort of online portal where you can get all of your tax documents synced so that you can stay up to date on how much you owe, when you owe it by, and things of that sort. Your employer identification number approval document. So once you get your employer identification number, also called your EIN, you will get a letter that has that EIN number on it in the top right corner, and it's 2 pages. You need to save both of those pages. Your operating agreement. So not all states require an operating agreement, but some states do. I just say, rule of thumb, you need to have an operating agreement in place if you have an LLC, because this is what protects you. If you are to ever get sued and they're going to call in your LLC as a party to the lawsuit, a court is most likely going to ask you for the operating agreement or ask what the operating agreement says as it pertains to the business being sued, as well as it pertains to the liability protection that it offers its owner. So this is something that you really want to make sure you keep hold of. All right, so this is a warning. Warning, you will get documents in the mail claiming that you need a certified copy of your filing or a sign to hang in your office. These are going to be spam letters. So they will look official. However, you'll usually find that somewhere in the middle of the page or at the bottom, it's going to say that this was not sent on behalf of a government entity. These are private companies that are trying to get you to spend more money than what you need to spend. They're going to say you need a certified copy, and they usually ask for about $80 something. A certified copy with your state is usually anywhere from about $5 to $15, or maybe even 20 on the higher end, but nowhere near $80. That 80 is to pay their company for providing you with this. You don't even need a certified copy. As long as you have your certificate of formation or your certificate of filing that we just discussed, then those are already certified. Sometimes down the line, if you're applying for a small business loan, And they may ask for some sort of certified copy, but typically your certificate of formation, your certificate of filing are just fine, and you don't need to get any sort of certified copy. So be on the lookout. These will actually come in the mail, and I promise it will look official, but it won't be. Unless they specifically state that they come from the state of Illinois or the state of Texas, whatever state you're located in, assume it's spam and look for that language that I discussed. It's usually in the middle of the page or the bottom in really, really small print. It says this letter is not sent on behalf of a government entity. Apply for EIN. So EIN stands for Employer Identification Number. An EIN is given by the IRS. You can apply for it for free online at irs.gov. Now, in this picture to the left on this computer screen, this is the screen that the website looks like. If it does not look like this when you are going to apply for your EIN, then you are probably on the wrong website. This is direct screenshot from the IRS website, and so it should look like this. It'll probably just be straight and not crooked. So look for it to look like this, the shading, the coloring, everything, the setup of the page. Also make sure that you're on the website that ends in .gov. When you go to Google and you type in like apply for EIN, you're gonna get a bunch of ads that come up first, and you need to scroll down until you get to the web address that is at the irs.gov or ends in .gov. And if they're asking you to pay any money for the EIN, then you're on the wrong website, because you can apply for your EIN for free. There's no charge for this on the IRS's website. In order to apply, you'll need a valid social security number or ITIN. And sometimes at the end, it'll tell you that you cannot apply online. It'll maybe say error code like 101, and you need to call into the number. That just means that you either need to fax in the application or mail it in. I can't tell you, what the triggering symbols are for this, but it does happen like once every blue moon. I'm not able to register one of my clients' EIN number online, and I have to mail in or fax in that application. If that happens to you, you can simply Google IRS form SS4. IRS form SS4. That's S as in Sam, S as in Sam, and the number 4. And that will be the PDF version that comes up is a document that you need to submit in order to apply for your EIN number. They'll have a fax number that you can fax it into, or they have a mailing address that you can mail it into, and you can move on from there. So after you get your EIN number, now that you have your certificate of filing or your certificate of formation and your EIN number, this is when you'll actually apply for your business bank account. So you'll need to go and open up a business bank account with your bank during this time. You cannot apply for the business bank account before you have the EIN number or before you have your certificate of formation and filing with the state. You need both of those. SCorp Tax Status. So I know because I've seen it as well, there's been a lot on social media about, oh, get an SCorp, get an SCorp. It's so much better than an LLC. But no one's really explaining why they're asking people to get an SCorp or why they're promoting it. So let's kind of break down what an SCorp means and what the benefits are. SCorp stands for small corporation. It is a way that your business can be taxed. It's not necessarily a type of entity. It is a way your business can be taxed. Since we're talking about steps to take after you file your LLC, you may be wondering, well, corporation, I have an LLC, isn't that different? Yes, a corporation and LLC are different, but when it applies to an S-Corp, we're talking about the tax status, the way that your LLC will be taxed. You can ask for your LLC to be taxed as a small corporation, even though you're an LLC and not a corporation. Now, this is not recommended until your business can pay you a salary of $40,000 or more and still have money left in your account for operating funds. So if you're paying yourself a salary of $40,000 or more, you should not be completely depleting your business bank account of all the funds. You should still have money left in for operating expenses. By applying for SCorp tax status, essentially you are decreasing the amount that you owe the government in taxes. It is not really advised that you apply for SCorp tax status until you can pay yourself a salary of $40,000 or more, because you won't really reap the benefits of it until you reach that monetary threshold. Now, what exactly are the benefits? So basically, when you have an LLC, all the money that you bring in is going to be considered 100% personal profit. So if my business for the year made $100,000, right? When I go to file my personal taxes, it's going to say that I made $100,000 because for the simple fact of tax status for the LLC, they disregard the fact that you have a business and they just tax you 100% personally. Now, when I have SCorp tax status, that basically allows me to deem part of what my business has made as income, right? And the other part as dividends or distributions. So the law says you can do up to a 70-30 split, which means that out of the $100,000 that my business made, I can say that $70,000 of that was deemed to be income, right? And I'm going to be taxed 15.3% for self-employment tax, Medicare, and Social Security. That's all encompassed in the 15.3%. Now, the $30,000 that I am going to receive as distributions or dividends, I'm only going to be taxed 2.9% for that. That's going to be just for the Social Security and the Medicare tax. So that is the main benefit. And that's why you don't really see a benefit of having SCorp tax status until you can pay yourself a salary of $40,000 or more. It basically allows you to decrease the amount that you're paying in taxes because that 30% that you can deem to be a dividend or distribution, you're only being taxed 2.9% on that versus the 70% that's considered your income, you're going to be taxed 15.3%. That includes your self-employment, Social Security, and your Medicare tax. So that's the main reason for SCorp tax status. It is not ideal for everybody. You can apply for it even if you have an LLC, and you don't have to apply for it as soon as you begin your business. Whenever you start to meet this monetary threshold and you want to start to apply for it to reap some of those tax benefits, then you can go ahead and file the necessary form with the IRS. You can either reach out to an attorney such as myself or reach out to an accountant who can do it for you, or you can do it yourself. I want to say that the tax form is called 2553. It's either 2553 or 2554. But if you go to Google and you type in IRS form 2553 or IRS form 2554, it should come up. And the top of it will say, SCorp tax status or small corporation tax status. And so you'll know which document you need. So your business bank account. As we stated, it's super, super important for you to get your business bank account opened. If you had a business bank account for your DBA before you filed for your LLC, you need a new one. Please, please, please. The same goes for your EIN. If you had an EIN for your DBA, that means that when you applied for the EIN, you told them that you were either a sole proprietor or you were operating under a DBA. You need a new EIN number when you become an LLC. And if you opened up a business bank account with your DBA as where your it was under the name of your DBA, you need to get a new business bank account for your LLC. Reason being is that one, your LLC is taxed differently than a sole proprietor or DBA is taxed. So your EIN number now needs to apply to an LLC so that the IRS knows how to tax you. And then two, there are certain bank benefits that come when you are actually a registered business entity. And so therefore they need to know that you're an actual registered business entity so that it goes fully into your business's name versus with a DBA or when you have a sole proprietor, that business bank account is still partly in your personal name. When you have an LLC, that business bank account is fully in the name of your business. And this is really needed in order to uphold the liability protection that the LLC offers you. When I started out, I mentioned that an LLC is meant to offer you liability protection, but you're not necessarily going to reap all of those benefits if you don't uphold certain steps. And this is one of them. If you don't properly separate your personal and your business finances, you're not going to be able to uphold that liability protection that the LLC is supposed to offer you. And one way to do that is to have a business bank account that belongs solely to the LLC, that has nothing to do with you as a person. That way, it can be proved that you are fully separating yourself financially, and you did not intend to be viewed as the same person or the same entity as your business. What happens when you start to mix or commingle your funds is that if you were to ever be sued or any legal issue arises, they're going to look to see if you really get the LLC protection that or the liability protection that the LLC offers you. If they can prove that you are mixing your funds, they can try to use that as proof that, oh, you know what, they've been mixing their funds. They didn't really intend to be viewed as a separate business from them as a person. And that way they can sue you personally for what you own, whether it is a car that you own, your home, what's in your checking account, things like that, as well as sue your business. And so the whole goal is to shield yourself from that liability by having the LLC, separating your business and personal funds so that doesn't become an issue. Get all business income deposited directly into this account. So as soon as you get paid for whatever services your business offers or for something business related, have it deposited directly into your business bank account. Now, this does not mean that you cannot pay yourself, right? Because we just talked about paying yourself an income. You can absolutely pay yourself income from your business account, but it needs to be deposited into your business bank account first. Attach any payment systems such as PayPal or Stripe to your business bank account. Make sure that they're not still lingering or maybe connected to your personal bank account. They need to go directly into your business bank account. Ask your bank if you're eligible for a business credit card. We are hearing so much about the benefits of business credit, which is great, right? But it doesn't just automatically start building or accruing just because you started a business. You actually need to take steps to start to build that credit. And one of the easiest ways to do it is that when you go in to open up your business bank account, ask your bank if you're eligible for a business credit card. When does my LLC file taxes? So LLC taxes are filed at the same time that you file your personal taxes. So typically around January, we may get our W-2s from our job, right? And we go to start to file around February or March. That's the same time that you're going to file your business taxes. Now, the IRS does have a list online of certain businesses that need to file on a quarterly basis versus on an annual basis. And you can go to the IRS website or you can go to Google and type in IRS list of quarterly filing businesses, and you can find it there. Typically, businesses that offer professional services such as accounting or legal services, things like that, you'll be required to file quarterly as opposed to annually. There is an extensive list, and so the best thing that you can do is really speak with an accountant to see if you need to file quarterly or annually, or do the research yourself and really look into it to see if your industry falls under that list. Because what you don't want to do is owe back taxes or owe the IRS interest on taxes that were due that you didn't pay on time. Also, if you don't pay these taxes, right, your business can fall into tax forfeiture, which means that your LLC will be in a quote unquote inactive status, meaning that if anything happens that can cause liability, even though you have a LLC filed, if it's in tax forfeiture and it's not active, you don't have that liability protection. And so this is going to be a recurring theme that I'm going to keep talking about. You want to do as much as possible to uphold that liability protection. So make sure that you are filing your taxes on time. State tax versus federal tax. So state tax is due to the state in which your LLC is filed. That includes domestic and foreign filings. Typically due by April or May of the next year. So, I was saying that when we go to file our taxes, we usually do it in February or March. Typically the state tax is due by April or May. So that means that you need to have gone to your accountant by February or March so they could start processing your paperwork and meet the necessary deadlines of April or May for your business tax deadline for the state that you're registered in. This is sometimes referred to as a franchise or a corporation tax by your state. I know you're probably like, well, I have an LLC, not a corporation tax. That's just the name that the state gives the tax that businesses need to pay, whether you're an LLC, a partnership, a corporation, a nonprofit. It's called corporation tax or franchise tax. This is paid in addition to the state's annual filing fees for LLCs. So you also need to make sure that you're upkeeping your annual filings. This is typically going to be a document that says, hey, the same people are still in charge of this LLC and we're still conducting business. In the state of Texas, it's about $30. I think in Louisiana, it's about $35. The annual filing fee is not too bad versus the state taxes are really going to be more so gauged based on how much money you're making from the inhabitants of that state. Federal taxes are what I was just referring to in the last slide. These are going to be filed at the time you file your personal taxes. Unless applied for otherwise, you are taxed approximately 15.3% of the total profit that the company made. Once again, this 15.3% encompasses self-employment tax, Medicare, and Social Security tax. Annual maintenance filing. So each state requires you to file an annual report. This is what I was just talking about in the last slide. There is typically a filing fee required as well. This is in addition to your state's sales tax. Deadlines vary, so check with your state. It is normally due at the beginning/end of the calendar year or annually from the date that you initially filed your LLC. So if I file my LLC in July of 2020, then my annual filing is probably going to be due of July 2021 or August 2021, usually maybe a month after. So just check with your state to see when it's going to be due. They'll typically send you a letter in your online portal that you use to register for your LLC, or they'll mail you a reminder for this using the mailing address that they have on file. What contract should I consider? So as you're starting out, like I said, simply filing your LLC does not automatically grant you limited liability protection, right? So there are other steps that you need to take in order to uphold that. Additionally, right, we really file an LLC in order to protect our personal assets or shield ourselves from personal liability for things that actually are the liability of our business or have to do with our business. Okay, well, what happens to your business? How do you protect your business? Because if something happens with your business, right, then somebody could just sue your business. They can't sue you personally, but they can still sue your business. And so that is why it's so important to have contracts. The LLC itself protects you as a person separate from your business, while contracts are going to actually protect your business. They're going to outline important details such as how much you should be paid, when you should be paid, what are your refund policies, right? What happens if someone doesn't pay you? What rights do you have to take against them? What are the services that someone is hiring you to provide? Or what are the services that you're hiring someone else to provide? When do they need to complete these services by? Do they need to start out completing some? Are they expected to complete all of them every time they work for you? How often are they completing this work for you? Are you warranting the services that you're offering? Or are they warranting the services they're offering you? Things like that, right? If there's going to be some sort of exchange of ideas or some sort of exchange of intellectual property, who owns those ideas or intellectual property at the end of this business transaction? What steps need to be taken in order to claim ownership of those? Things like that. I know I just named a lot and you're like, oh crap, I probably was not even thinking about all these before. I'm overwhelmed. You've already talked about so much. And now I have to worry about the possibility of getting sued. It's okay. Take a deep breath. The contracts will protect you. No, I'm not talking about some sort of contract that you snag off of Google. Get an attorney and get some quality contracts. It's a little bit like investing, right? You know that you're going to lose money up front because you have to take money out of your account and you have to put it towards what you're going to invest to. But the whole goal is that that investment will double, triple, or quadruple itself, maybe 10 times itself, right? And it's the same with your contracts. Whatever money you're spending on an attorney or an accountant that you're investing in your business, it's an investment. Because what you're hiring those specialized or professional individuals to do is going to be able to triple or quadruple the protection that your business is going to have. And it could save you thousands, sometimes millions of dollars. A contract can do that. A contract that you may have paid $300 or $500 for could protect you worth thousands or millions of dollars. Reason being, right? Suppose somebody ordered 200 bottles of some hair care product from you that you claim to, grow hair, and it's going to cause you to get a man, right? You will be married at the end of you using this product. And women are saying, well, my hair isn't growing and I'm still single. I'm going to sue you because that's false advertisement. Well, that's where in your contract you stated that all results are not going to be equal. Everybody does not experience the same results. We cannot be held liable if you don't experience these results, right? Suppose you never said it in your contract, right? Then they're going to just expect that any words they see are going to apply to them, and that's where your contract comes in place. No, right? You need to follow these guidelines. You need to follow these steps. Now, some of you are more product-based. You're like, okay, well, I'm not a service, so I sell products. Someone may get a receipt or an invoice, but they're not necessarily getting a contract from me each time they purchase something from me, right? That's fine. Guess what your invoice or your receipt is? That's right. It's a form of a contract. So and I shouldn't, but I love to go to Ross and to Marshalls, right? Those are like my vices of choice. They always have amazing things in there. I can like just be going in there. Maybe I tell myself I'm going in there for the air condition to cool off while I'm out running errands, but I'm really going in there to go look to see what they have. And so when I go purchase the items and I go to check out, I get a receipt, right? Now, on the back of this receipt has terms and conditions, right? What is the refund policy? What's the exchange policy? What do they warrant about the products that they're giving me, right? Do I accept everything as is? Or can I come back and say, hey, I saw this hole in this product that I purchased from you and I want to return it, or I want my money back? What's the return policy? Things like this. These are forms of contracts. These are terms and conditions. Simply because I purchased from them, right? I decided to actually purchase the product that they had for sale. That means that I had to agree to their terms and conditions. If I want to return something, I need to do it in accordance with the terms and conditions or the policies that they have for their store. And there's nothing that I can really do about that because I agreed to that once I made my purchase. So that's an example of how you can implement contractual terms when you are selling products versus services. Now let's kind of go down what each of these means. So independent contractor agreement. This is going to be used for individuals or companies that you are hiring to complete specific tasks for you, but will not receive employee benefits. Now, keep in mind that when you hire someone and you call them an employee, they're entitled to receive employee benefits that are required by your state or required federally by the government. Versus someone who's an independent contractor, you don't have to give them any sort of employee benefits. When someone is employee, right, you need to make sure that you're giving them a W-2 at the end of the year. When someone is an independent contractor, you don't use a W-2, you use a 1099. When someone is an employee, you're required to take taxes out of their pay. When someone is an independent contractor, they're responsible for their own taxes. You don't have to take the taxes out. They're responsible to reporting that to the IRS and paying that money to the IRS. So I say that so that you can know the difference between an independent contractor and an employee when the time comes for you to bring on staff to help. And an independent contractor doesn't necessarily even have to be someone who's helping with your business. This could be a photographer, a graphic designer, a brand strategist, an accountant, right? A website design or development, things like that. They can be independent contractors. Subcontractor agreement. You have been hired to complete services for someone else, and you hire someone to complete the services you were hired to do. Maybe you have a cleaning company and you have contracts with the city as to where you are to clean 5 or 6 city buildings, right? Every month. You may actually subcontract some smaller companies to do some of this cleaning for you. That means that you have contracted with the main party, but you now subcontract someone else to complete the services you were hired to do. This is when you will need a subcontractor agreement. Fully outlines the services that they're going to offer. It fully relieves you from any liability, right, for any harm, injury, or damage that those companies cause while they're completing services on your behalf. That's the key to really having the subcontractor agreement, is really that release of liability. Also, of course, you want to outline the pay, when pay is going to be exchanged and what services are expected and when they're expected by. Partnership agreement. It's going to be used when you're collaborating with another individual or company to outline terms of the partnership and expectations. Collaboration is super, super huge right now, especially when we're connecting with so many other types of businesses, people through social media. I always get a lot of DMs about, oh, let's collaborate or let's work on this together. And I'm actually very picky with who I actually decide to work with, because at the end of the day, you're putting your name on the line. And so you want to make sure that whoever you're entering into a partnership with can actually be trustworthy and you can trust them to uphold the terms of the contract, right? Maybe you're going to partner together for some sort of e-course, and who's going to own that e-course content once it's finally completed, right? Once the course is done, who owns it? How do you split the proceeds, right? What happens after that? And so it's so important to have a partnership agreement in place so that you can discuss all of these things up front before it's time to disperse payment. That way you know who needs to be paid first, what types of processing fees there are involved, or what kind of startup fees you guys had, and how you're going to deduct that from what you made, who's going to own the finished product, who has rights to sell it, things like that. You really, really, really need a partnership agreement in place. Or maybe you're doing some sort of influencing through social media, partnership agreement in place, right? What are you expected to do? How much will you be paid? How will you be paid? Things like that. What are the terms of your partnership? Can you partner with similar companies at the same time of working with this company? Or can you only partner with them? Can you not compete with any? I mean, can you not partner with any competing businesses or companies at that time? You really need to have an agreement and contract in place so that everyone is on the same page and you're not blindsided by what someone else thought was going to happen and you didn't really intend to happen, and vice versa. Contract for sale of goods. So you have a big order and you want a contract in place to protect your business. That's what this is used for. Maybe you sell some sort of product and you're going to put it in the Amazon marketplace or the Walmart marketplace, or your local grocery store or hair supplier store. They're going to put your products in their storefront. This is when you need a contract for sale of goods. How many of your product are you going to provide? How often are you going to provide it? How much do you typically sell it for? How much is the store going to sell it for? Or do you not care how much the store sells it for? What is the percentage of the sale from that product that you're going to be able to have? Those are some of the things that are included in a contract for a sale of goods, and many more. But it's typically when you're going to have some sort of big order, you want a contract in place. Or, for contracts for sale of smaller goods, right? These are terms and conditions that you can put on your receipt or on your invoice that outline your policies and your company procedures. And you can pretty much tell someone that by purchasing these items, you're agreeing to these terms and conditions. Non-disclosure agreement. Used when sharing confidential information about your business or business ideas with someone else, and you want to be able to take legal action against them if they share the information. Now, Clubhouse was something that was super, super big, and it scared me. It scared me for the fact that there were so many rooms on Clubhouse that were doing like pitch competitions, or people were just like verbalizing what they do and sharing about their business freely, or these ideas that they had that had to be brought into fruition. Nobody was signing non-disclosure agreements. You don't know who was on those calls listening to your ideas, who was listening and then actually implementing them. You never know who is going to try to steal your idea and take it as their own. This is why it's crucial to have a non-disclosure agreement in place. I'm going to share this. I actually had two clients who were friends who were on the verge of dating. However, they discussed with each other a lot of ideas. I think that they were a great source to kind of motivate and encourage each other. And they were in kind of similar industries, and they wanted to just protect ideas, right? That were going to be exchanged if they broke up or they stopped their relationship. They didn't want someone else, the other, to try to steal their idea. And they actually had me prepare a non-disclosure agreement for them. Now, you may be thinking this is a little bit overboard, but at the same time, when you realize that the ideas that you have really have value, they really have potential to be something great, you would hate to see someone else reap the benefit of your idea, of your creativity, what God had put on your heart to do. So a non-disclosure agreement can help with that. Now, typically in my non-disclosure agreements, I also include what's called non-compete language. And so the non-compete language is really going to be used to make sure that not only is the person not going to disclose the information, but they themselves cannot create a competing company or a competing business, for X amount of months. The law says that a reasonable time frame is 12 months to restrict somebody from doing something, and the law doesn't like to restrict people from doing things for long periods of time. So typically the non-disclosure agreement will say, hey, it'll last, for eternity. Don't disclose the confidential information. However, the non-compete says you can't create a competing business. Maybe it's within like 20 miles of this business, or it is for a certain amount of time, or it's both. You can't create a business within 20 miles of this business for at least 12 months, or you can't create a competing business for at least 12 months from the date that this document is signed. So those are some of the things that I include. Both of them are super, super important, the non-disclosure piece and the non-compete piece. All right, and now we will start to take questions. As always, if you don't feel comfortable asking questions in this group, you can always send me an email or shoot me an email, or you can schedule a one-on-one consultation for us to kind of discuss some of these things in detail, how they apply to your business.